There we go. You're on the camera, Chris. Do you know that?
I did that again. Ugh,
Okay, are we live, do we think?
we are live.
Okay, well, I'm going to pretend that we are, even though I don't see any. Oh, there it is popping up now. Good evening, everybody. It's evening here in, I was going to say in sunny Florida, but we've had a couple of showers today, well needed this afternoon. Not long enough, unfortunately, but it's still warm. It's still nice, and you know how when after a really nice rain, a nice summer rain, and everything smells so good afterwards. That's kind of how it is here. So before we begin. Uh, Going any further on than we're doing already, I'd like to say good evening to my hello to my spirit guide Grey Eagle, as always, standing to my right side, stroking my cheek. Yes, it is our final day of our 25-year anniversary of, golly, can you believe that, of the first publication of The Eagle and the Rose. And I'd also like to say hi to Chris. Say hi, Chris. How are you?
Hi, Rosemary. Hi, everyone.
Chris, can you believe, can you really believe that we've had 31 days solidly working every single day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day? We've been doing these shows. And then, of course, all the background stuff that people don't see, and all the other stuff that I do, and all the other stuff that you do. So, pretend I've got a microphone and I'm interviewing you now, right? So,
Okay.
Chris, and how do you feel at the end of this marathon, 31 days of celebration?
I think I would say I feel slightly tired, but the kind of tired you feel after you ran a race that, you won, you crossed the finish line. So a well-worn tired.
Well, we're only having a pause before we start all over again. So, all right, we're here. We're doing off the cuff, which means that anybody who's out there who might be listening, I don't know if we've got anybody yet, Chris, but anybody out there who may well be listening, who has had their barbecue or has come home from the beach or has settled down for the evening because the holidays are over and let's just chill and relax. Anybody who's sitting out there watching and maybe had got a nice drink, or maybe if you're in England, snuggling up in bed, but you're not yet asleep. Anyway, so you listening, all of you tuning in, we're going to allow you to set the theme. But I do want to say, because it has been Memorial Day here, and because we did a great show this morning talking about heroes and so on. If anybody out there will watch the show this morning and has extra thoughts or has some thoughts as to, what we were talking about this morning, and did you figure out who your heroes were? We'd love to hear from all of you. And anyone who's had a great time or a family time or whatever you want to talk about, we're willing to, depending. I can veto anything that you say. It is my show after all. But we like to have all of you sort of set the theme, because all we're doing here is we're just hanging out with you all. We've invited you into our homes. I suppose I've invited you into my home. So here you are. You've come to visit. And what are the first things that you'd like to chat about? What are the first things you'd like to talk about? So we're going to be open to all of that. However, before you start with that, I did have a nice time this afternoon. I went to a friend's house. I took my I took my potato salad with me, and I took my tomato balsamic salad with me. But because I'm not nearly as generous as I should be, I decided to leave my bean salad here. So I didn't share that. I certainly did not share my potted beef. And what else? And the chicken salad, well, I had that for lunch. Not all of it, but I didn't take that either. So out of the 5 dishes that I made yesterday, I did take 2 of them. Um, to my friend's house. Potato salad is always good, isn't it? And burgers and potato salad, and oh, I took some mozzarella cheese, which I didn't use on Sunday. So that's been mine. We had very nice time, a really nice company. And now I'm back here to do our off the cuff stuff. Chris, I know that you've been chasing and tearing around all day. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? And then it's over to anybody who wants to say anything to us.
Oh, yeah. This afternoon, we spent our day helping our oldest son and his girlfriend out. They were moving household,
Oh,
and
golly.
so it was a lot of lugging and hauling and loading and getting the last things out.
That's tough. When you're moving, it's always tough. It can be very exciting when you're moving, but nevertheless, it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of change, and there are a lot of variables when people move, aren't there? So, are you exhausted, Chris?
I am exhausted, physically exhausted. I am not mentally exhausted, but thank goodness all I have to do is sit here, press a few buttons, read some things. We're great tonight.
I don't know. I think I might be getting you to do a bit more than that, or not. Anyway, I'm just hanging out. I've got a nice drink in front of me, not an alcoholic drink. I must point out to you, I've got a nice drink in front of me. I've got, I for the first time since my birthday, I got out my dark chocolate cherries from Maggie. Thank you so much. And I just had 2 of those because my friend didn't give me dessert today. So I thought, oh, I just fancied something sweet. So I took the chocolates out. They're now going back in the fridge. I'm only eating 2, not any more than that. All right, Chris, what have we got? Is everybody remembering to do hashtag Rosemary Altea? I have to ask you.
I think they're learning, Rosemary.
Good. Okay, go for it then, Chris.
Well, Victoria's on.
Hi,
She's
Victoria.
saying, so happy to have caught you live on this final day. I'm sure it's been a ton of work for you and your team, but we so appreciate it. I'm looking forward to going back and enjoying what I missed live.
Yes, well, Victoria, thank you for that, because we do like to let people know you can access everything that we do. You can access it on YouTube, and you can access it on Facebook and Twitter and all of those different places. So it's easy to go back in there. And actually, my friend this afternoon, as we were waiting to eat dinner, she said, I want to look at the show. And I just want to point something out, Chris. I'm not sure if we can do anything about it, but we did go into YouTube. We actually put in Rosemary Altea. We clicked on it, and there it was. It was actually the first or second thing that came up was the cooking show that I did yesterday morning. Is it? Well, yes, of course. It was Sunday yesterday. And so she said, oh, let's watch a bit of this. I hate watching myself. But anyway, she said, let's watch a bit of this. And her son-in-law was thrilled because he said he loves cooking shows of any kind, but it's the first cooking show he's ever watched and then eaten the food that was made on the cooking show by the person who did the cooking show. So that was good. However, one of the things we did notice is the sound is a little bit out of sync.
Oh, interesting.
So we might want to take a look at that. But if you don't look at my mouth moving, just look at the food that's going on, you'll be fine.
Well, it could also be the internet strength of where you're viewing it from rather than the actual
I
video.
guess so. I guess you're right. Anyway, so my son-in-law, he looked at me, he's asking about the potted beef, and he's saying, really? And what is that? He said, they make a chipped beef here, which they pour over toast. I said, no, not at all the same. But then he was avidly watching what was going into the potato salad, because even as we were watching it, the potato salads were being put out on the table ready for us to eat. And it was the same potato salad that I made yesterday. And I do have to tell you, I always think it's better the next day. I like food better the next day anyway. I think the flavors it sort of pop more, and everything sort of goes together better. But anyway, he was really looking forward to eating that. He he put 3 huge spoonfuls on his plate before even tasting it. And he ate every scrap. So what can I tell you? So he obviously enjoyed it. We enjoyed it. All right. Let's go, Chris. I'm done talking about myself and what we've been doing. Go for it.
All right. Lori says, well done to both of you. Even I couldn't keep up.
And all you had to do, Laurie, was sit and listen.
And then Chris says, well done, brilliant, tiny team.
Thank you. It is a tiny team, but we're a good tiny team.
Then Rhonda says, good evening from Colorado.
Hi, Rhonda.
And Marzina says, warmest regards with love and thank you. Hugs from Warsaw, Poland.
Marzina, what a lovely, lovely name. And Poland, wow. Oh, wow. Keep going, Chris.
Lori says, I had a great angel intervention this morning.
Oh.
What is the name of the angel who helped me this morning, please?
I don't know. What can I tell you, Laurie? No idea. Chris, keep going.
Victoria says, I'm exhausted after a long day at work and don't even know what I want to talk about. Here's one. What is Rosemary most looking forward to for the next 25 years?
I think that's an easy one to answer because it just popped right into my head. Do like in 25 years' time, I won't be here. But I'll strive to be here, but it's doubtful. But I'll do my best. What am I looking forward to? I think one of, if not the most important thing for me, I think right now is to, I'm looking to my family because my daughter and my grandson are everything to me. And I mean everything. So I'm looking forward to my daughter sort of getting to the point where she's happy and settled and living her life positively. I'm looking forward to seeing my grandson grow up. You know what I would really love is that I don't die before he sort of loses his memories of me. Now I know that he'll have, if I die tomorrow, I know that he would have memories of me, but they perhaps would be vague memories. Of course, he can always turn on the TV. We've got so many videos that he could watch that he can remember me and see me and see me doing my thing. But making memories together with my daughter and my grandson, that is the top of my list, and everything else after that is an incredible bonus for me. So I'm very fortunate because I've had a very, very special and a very amazing and incredible life, doing the thing that I love to do the most, and having a partner in Grey Eagle who has been so supportive. I mean, you know, what can I say? More of that would work really well for me.
Rhonda says, this was such a wonderful month of celebration and cooking. I'll miss having you in my home every day.
Oh, well, we'll still be here. we'll give you the opportunity to be here and to connect with us, and we will still be doing things as well, rather than every week, because Chris has actually requested, can I have some weekends off? And I don't see why she should have them off if I don't have them off. But anyway, she's requested weekends off, not every weekend, of course. And we will still be doing story time on Saturday mornings, but we can do that pretty much from anywhere. I think I'd still like to do the cooking, whether we do it every other week or whether we just stick to once a month. And we'd love to have requests from you guys. If you would like to see me make something, if you have my cookbook and you have seen something in there and you think, I'm not sure I could do this on my own, maybe Rosemary could do it and show me how to do it. And so anything like that, or, you know, anything that you've heard me talking about that you think might be helpful to you, to show you how to do these things, to cook these things, I'm happy to do that. So requests, please, from everybody. Chris.
Well, also, if folks go to your website, there's a link there where you just have to click on a button and you can still put your name in for the bottom brick exercise. We're hoping that we can maybe do that once a month too, right?
Yes, we're looking for volunteers. That has been so, I think people have been so uh, intrigued by it, inspired by it, that doing the bottom brick exercise. And those of you who don't know what are they talking about, the bottom brick? What is that? You can, again, if you go to YouTube and you put in, Rosemary Altea, a bottom brick, and scroll down, you'll see where it is. And a real inspiring, these 4 people that we've had on in the last month, all women, actually. We're waiting for a man to do this. I wonder if any man there will be brave enough. But anyway, we've had some fantastic volunteers to do this, and they have been amazing and inspiring, and their stories have been really touching people a lot, and really inspiring people, and making people think about their own stories when they've been listening to our lovely volunteers. So we are still taking names for volunteers for the bottom brick, and we shall certainly be continuing with that, perhaps once a month or something. We can't, neither Chris nor I want to give up every single weekend, and we certainly have other things to do. Uh, but anyway, so even though we're sort of scaling down a little bit, we're still actually scaling up, because we'll still be doing more than we were doing, if you see what I mean. And we'll also be doing more webinars. We've got a webinar coming up on the 26th of June. If you go to our website, rosemaryaltea.com, you can click there and see I'll be talking to dead people. What, you say? I thought you didn't believe in dead people. Well, I don't really, do I? But I'll be talking to your loved ones in the spirit world. And those of you who just come and join in the webinar, you can see how it works. You can see what we do. We've already done one of these, which was so successful. So we thought we'd have another one and do another one. And we'll be giving messages from the spirit world to many of those who join our webinar. And it's just very interesting, I think, when you see a medium, and I'm talking about a real medium, you know what I mean. When you see the detail, you hear the detail, you see the detail, and you see how it works, it can be really quite eye-opening and fascinating anyway to watch those things. Chris.
Chris says, my trans son is in the middle of a move to another province. I'm just so proud of him. At the tender age of 27, he is now a manager at one of the largest gaming companies in the country.
Oh, wow. Wow. Good, good, good. And I'm sure by the sounds of it, you've helped him with his situation. You've helped him to overcome his situation. You've supported him, obviously. What an interesting story that must be. Chris.
Joy is saying, good evening, Rosemary and Gray Eagle.
Hi.
And then Victoria is saying, I keep thinking about that amazing fish you cooked a few weekends ago. I've not cooked it yet. I'm not a cook at all, but I am aware I need to care for myself better. Any advice?
Yes. Well, a good diet, first of all, good sleep, good diet. Going to the fish, talking of the fish, we've had so many people who've, in fact, yesterday, who do we have? We had Wendy, who said, "Oh, I tried the fish that you showed us how to try." She tried the grouper. She said it was so delicious. We had another lovely lady who wrote in and said, "I made it, but with cod, because I did suggest you can use cod." And Chris, we used to do that all the time, didn't we? When
Absolutely.
you'd come down to Vermont, Chris would bring a whole load of cod, and we'd invite everybody over, and I would cook and make the Parmesan encrusted cod. Yummy, yummy. It is one of the best ways to eat fish, I do have to say. So any white fish is good, but it worked really well for the grouper too. How do you keep yourself well and healthy? Well, don't eat the things that you know are not good for you. How do you do that? Well, I think one of the good ways to sort of remind yourself not to eat stuff that isn't good for you is just pay attention to what you're putting on your plate and ask yourself this just before you're going to eat. Ask yourself this: is this food poisonous to me? Will it damage me? Is it poisonous to me? Or can I eat it in abundance? And trust me, when you start to look at the foods. I have an issue with diet because I cannot eat anything that has whatever they are, these little enzymes, I can't even think of the name of them now. See how tired I am. Oxalates. I can't have anything that has oxalates in it. And you're saying, I know, can hear you all saying, what are oxalates? Well, you get them in fruit, in a lot of fruit, strawberries, dark berries, blackberries, any kind. You get them in spinach, and all those healthy things. We think you get them in spinach, and you get them in dark leaf broccoli is deadly for me. Yet people consider it to be a really healthy vegetable. So I have to be careful with that, but I also have to be careful with other things as well. For instance, no red meat. I do cheat from time to time, but I am careful with it. So I do eat a lot of fish. That's what you got to do. You got to just look at yourself. How healthy do you want to be? I'm healthy in my mind because I find joy wherever I go. I'm healthy in my emotional, whatever's going on there, and my spiritual, certainly healthy in my spiritual growth, doing the best I can. Now I just have to work on the body. But I do pay attention to what I'm eating. So it's very simple. There's no magic fix, it's just really simple common sense. Chris?
Barb says, Rosemary, another calendar would be so helpful, as no matter what I do, I still don't get a notification of when you're on. You're no longer on my Facebook feed. Surely don't want to miss you.
Oh, we don't know what happened to you then. What did happen? How do you get that, Chris? I mean, to be perfectly honest, I didn't do anything, and I always get on my phone a little light up which says Rosemary Altea is live, and I think, oh yes, I am. How do we get that then, Chris?
Well, I know if you're on Facebook, you click the little down arrow in the top right of Facebook, and then that brings you into settings and privacy, and you have to click on settings, and then you have to look for the bell, the notification bell, which is probably on the left. Then click video, and it should change your general settings to get live video notifications.
Oh, right. So there you are. If you want to know more about that, you can just keep playing this back, play this back, this part, play again, play again.
Or go to Facebook Help Center. Anything you need to know is on the Facebook Help Center.
But I do think it's a good idea. It's Chris's idea, the calendar. All of these good ideas are Chris. Or I shouldn't say all. Most of the good ideas are Chris. I do have my moments when I have a little light bulb moment.
We are nothing without you.
I'm also the one who vetoes the ideas I don't like, whether they're good or not. If I don't like them or don't want to do them, no, forget that. But Chris has these amazing ideas all the time. And when she says,
to your detriment.
when she says, I've been thinking, oh, I sink. There's something happens to me. I just, no, not again. But she's keeping me busy. She's keeping me active. But I think it is a good idea, Chris, that we should put the calendar up, because I think that was a very, very good idea that you had.
Well, believe it or not, I was working on that this afternoon. So by midnight tonight, it will be up for June.
But what happens, Chris, if we decide partway through June that we're going to do something else, and then we're going to do something else, and then we might do something else? Can you put it on the calendar anyway?
Absolutely. I take down the old one and replace it with the new one.
You see, you can see, you're all asking, aren't you? What would I do without her? I have no idea. Retire, perhaps.
These off-the-cuff ones are not scheduled, obviously. So
Well, off the cuff will never be scheduled because it's off the cuff. Because, hey, I was thinking about that phrase earlier on, and how do we get that phrase off the cuff? And here's my sort of thought about that you might be interested in. I have no idea whether I'm right or wrong, and if anybody knows where the off the cuff statement came from. I just thought of it off the cuff. It just came to me off the cuff. If anyone knows where that originated, I'd be interested. But here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, in vaudeville times, I can't go back that far, but, can go back quite a way. But in vaudeville times, before we had iPads, before we had technology, before we were able to put a little mic in our ear where somebody spoke to us and reminded us of if we'd missed any lines and so on, a lot of comedians, a lot of orators, a lot of comedians, a lot of orators, a lot of people making speeches. If you had to go to a even in a schoolroom situation, and you were giving a speech, or you were sort of at an event, a lot of people used to, in the days when men used to wear those long sleeve shirts with cuffs, a lot of men would write on their cuff little reminders of what it was that they would say. And a lot of comedians in the vaudeville eras used to write on their cuff or on their sleeve or what have you. And then if they forget, they just sort of look at the cuff and remind themselves. I don't know if that's where the off the cuff phrase stemmed from, but by its very nature, off the cuff means whatever I feel like, whenever I feel like. So those things are not, absolutely not scheduled. And tonight is not scheduled. We do sometimes give you a heads up. This morning I said we might be doing off the cuff, and so people are watching for it. But yes, everything else will probably be on the calendar. Chris.
Rosemary, I'm not sure if it's happening on your end or not, but I keep seeing the screen freeze off and on while you're talking. So just a heads up.
Okay. If it just froze, then it's because my daughter is trying to FaceTime me.
Okay, that does explain it. Yep.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Wants to know, is it possible to rewatch a webinar? I would like to see the one with Gray Eagle Speaks.
Wouldn't everybody? We are actually trying to sort that out. Chris, why don't you explain what we're trying to sort out, because you're the one who's trying to sort it all out.
All right, so we absolutely have the video. It has been recorded. But what we have found in multiple instances is people can take the recording and doctor it up and change it up and do something with it. So we want to be able to protect Rosemary's videos so that they're exactly how she and Gray Eagle want them to be. So we're working in the background to protect it.
Gray Eagle.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So go ahead.
So there's just, we've got a couple of feelers out with some people who say they can help us, and we're just waiting on some answers.
We just need to make sure that everything is protected. What I think, Chris, what you're hoping for is to be able to sort of have some ability to you can go to Amazon and you can order on the on-demand videos that we get. You pay a small fee for that, and or you can actually buy the video. And I don't know if that's the way to go, Chris. If anybody out there has any expertise in this area, please, we are desperate for information. Email Chris, K-R-I-S, Chris at rosemaryaltea.com, and just let us know if you have any feedback for us, or where it is you think we should go to get this information, because we've done quite a few webinars, and we need them to be protected. When we do webinars, we charge a fee, obviously. I mean, we have to make money just like everybody else makes money. And these webinars are very, very precious to us. They're also very precious to those people who pay a fee to come and see. For instance, our webinar on the 26th of June, I think the ticket price is $65.
Yes.
And so, you know, we can't just give them away, because what would that say to the people who were paying their ticket? It would say, well, if you wait long enough, you can see it for free. Of course, when it's an interactive video, which all of my webinars are interactive, that's a whole different thing, because when it's recorded, you can't interact. But still, you know, we do have to protect what we do. We do have to protect the rights. We do have to make sure that, you know, my work is very precious to me. I don't know what it's everybody else thinks, but certainly to me, my work is very precious, and also I know to Chris. So we have to make sure that we protect it and care for it, and make sure it gets into the right hands, and so that's what we're trying to do right now. As soon as those videos are available, we shall let you know. Absolutely. For those of you who join our webinars, Chris is also working on getting transcripts done, so that the people who were attending the webinars can then they'll be able to gain a copy of the transcript at some point. So we're in the process of doing all of this, but you know, this is, I know lots of people have been doing it for many, many years, but this to us is new. So you know, so please bear with us and be patient. Chris.
All right. So you have a number of people new joining you tonight. So Margie, Muriel, Keith are all saying hello.
Hi.
Let's see. Victoria says, thank you for the advice, eating healthy. That's a powerful piece of advice. One of the many things I appreciate about you is how you tell it like it is. Don't eat poison. Yes.
You know, there are times when I look at something that I'm eating or drinking, or I really, really love. I mean, I love almonds. I really love most kinds of nuts. And for me to have to give them up, because they're quite dangerous for me to have to give them up, oh gosh, it was tough. It was really, really tough. And I kept thinking, you know, I make this, here we go, food again. I make this, the most delicious almond tart, apricot almond tarts. And you have to grind the nuts. Now in England, you can go and buy ground almonds in a packet easily. They're in every grocery store. Here in the States, no, you can't. So I grind my own. But I love these almond tarts so much, and I know that I should not eat them because it's nuts. So what I do to compensate, I did tell you I cheat sometimes. I grind them so finely they're almost a powder by the time I've finished, and I think to myself, maybe I can get away with it if I eat them like that. So this work, you know, so you know, just cheat a little bit from time to time. Otherwise, what's the point? I mean, you know, if you can't eat what you love, I can't understand how people can just eat bland stuff. But anyway, just be sensible and know what is poisonous to you. And that doesn't mean it's going to kill you necessarily. Know what it is that is not good for you. Know what it is that you should only eat a little of rather than a lot of, that sort of thing. You know, just you know, just be sensible. And yes, I am very much a feet on the ground kind of a person. It doesn't always go down well, because I am, you know, you know, say what you mean and mean what you say. Otherwise, what's the point in talking at all? Chris.
So we went into a number of people talking about notifications. Lori saying, I don't get notifications either. I just happen to be looking at my phone. Keith saying, this is the second time I've wandered in here when looking at another subject on YouTube as such. Love how this happens to go through the world of light and spirit.
Okay. Well, now you know what to do. Let me see, Chris, if I've got this right. You go into Facebook.
Yes.
And you go into settings, and you click on settings, and you find a bell. That's as much as I
Yeah,
got
that's pretty
from
much it.
that.
And click the videos and select your notification
So
options.
you click on the bell and it gives you an option, right, for notifications for videos or what have you, and you click on that and it should work.
Yeah,
No.
Victoria's saying notifications can be tricky because not only are there settings in both the app like Facebook or YouTube, but then you have settings in your phone, so one could counteract the other.
Oh,
So just
uh,
look at those couple of things.
oh boy, Chris. We're glad that all of you who are wandering in are here, and we hope that you'll wander in again. We would love it if you were to join us. But if you want to know when I'm on, simply go to my webpage, rosemaryaltea.com, all one word. If you click subscribe on there, you'll be notified when anything's going on. There'll be a calendar there so you can sort of pretty much keep up with where we are and what we're doing. Simple as that, right? Chris?
Absolutely. Victoria's saying about the on demand, that would be amazing. I'd love to buy it on demand as I couldn't attend live because of the timing.
Yes, well, we're trying our best. Chris?
Hearts Love Joe says, "Hi, can I get a reading?"
Sure you can. I think you mean a consultation, don't you? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. But yes, absolutely. Again, Chris, Kris, at rosemaryaltea.com. Make sure that you put in the subject line consultation so Chris knows that that's what you want. We do book ahead, a little bit ahead. So if you want to do something, email us. Chris will send you all the information that you need in order to book one. If you don't like the information, don't book. If you like the information, book. She'll give you a date, and then we can do this. We can do this on what mediums do we use? We use Zoom, we use FaceTime, we use Skype, we use Messenger. We whatever there is out there, we're happy to use it. So yes, of course, but you need to email and discover what we're about.
Keith says, "Rosemary, something very close to my heart. Is many people and or romanticize the American Indian. Look at what really happened with the Indians."
Oh yes, Keith, look, Greg and I have been together now for so many years. We know more than 25 years because the anniversary of the of the first publication of The Eagle and the Rose was this month on the 19th of May. But Greg and I were working together many years before that, and the stories and the story of the Native American culture, the way that people live. I don't know if Keith, if you've ever heard of the movie Soldier Blue, just came out of my brain then. Soldier Blue. Now I saw it. I saw the uncut version when I was in England. It came out many years ago on my. It was probably 50 years ago. I'm sure you can get it on YouTube. It has since been made in the version where they've cut out the most gruesome bits, which probably makes it much more palatable for most people. But it tells the true story of an American, whatever he was, a colonel or whatever he was, I don't remember now, and how he set his soldiers to doing the worst atrocities. And he was eventually caught out and was punished for what he did. But nevertheless, if a soldier refused, they were put in line with the Native Americans. They were put in chains and made to walk just as the Native American Indians were. Natives were, not political anymore, is it to call them Indians? And Greg was laughing at that too. Another book that I always tell people to read is a book called Hand to Yo. It is a book by Ruth Beebe Hill. It's probably not in publication anymore, but if you go to any good library, they should have a copy. That's how I've got 2 copies of the book. That's how I get my copies. If you go to a library, you really, I've seen it a couple of times in paperback, but you really, it's such a rich book, Keith. Oh my goodness, it takes ages to read it because you read some and it's so fascinating. You have to go back to read it again because it's so powerful. Hand to Yo by Ruth Beebe Hill. It tells one version of the Native Americans. And I know that in the Native American culture, there are people who say, no, this isn't quite right. People who say, yes, this is right. But for us who are Westerners who don't really have a view, it does give you a view, and it does give you some kind of a vision into what certainly one tribe's attitude was. Grey Eagle has given me his own opinions on things. I was in Arizona a few years ago. I went to I went down the Apache Trail. I went to Superstition Mountain, and in the Superstition Mountains, it's sort of like a range of mountains. In the Superstition Mountains was where the Apache, because the Apache were the warrior race, and they held out above and beyond all of the other Native American cultures. If people think I've got that wrong, please let me know, because you know I'm a novice at this. But the Superstition Mountains were where the Apache hid. And if you go to the Superstition Mountains, you can see how that would have happened. They hid their women, their children, their old men and women, and they hid them in the mountains. And the warriors would come out and fight and then go back into the mountains. And when I went to the Superstition Mountains, I remember walking up. I had my walking boots on, and I walked up into the mountains, and I just was directed to this unbelievable place within the superstitions. And as I stood there, I listened, and I could hear all of the ancients, and I could hear all through the history, I could hear the call of the Apache nation as they called out to me, and all of those men and women and children who died in the Superstition Mountains, and all of the Apache Nation. I could hear them calling out to me. And as I stood there and watched and listened, I saw them rise up, and the entire area that I could view was filled with the Native American tribes who were there, rising up and welcoming me to the superstitions. And as I looked up overhead, we saw eagles, and not buzzards, by the way, because there are lots of buzzards there, but we saw eagles circling over the superstitions. It was a stunning, stunning, stunning experience. And I could hear the call of the Native Americans as they called to each other and as they called to me. There are these stones, little tiny, sort of quite small black stones that also can be found in the Superstition Mountains, and they are known as the tears of the natives, because they're everywhere on the superstitions. And in the Superstition Mountains is filled with the tears of the men and the women, the old men, the old women, and the children who suffered so greatly, and who perished trying to hold on to their lands and trying to hold on to their way of life. So sorry, Keith, this is a long diatribe here. Didn't mean to give you all the diatribe. So let's move on to something else. Chris.
Well, Keith had continued saying, where's the real spiritual healing around repentance for all the terrible things that have been and are being done with the Indians in America? That's spiritual too.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. Are you talking about the repentance of the government, the American government? Are you talking about the repentance of all of those people who thought that it was a good thing to wave the Bible and to say that these people were heathen and not of God. What are you talking about? I mean, we can all repent. Every single person on this planet has done something that they could repent of, if you like. I mean, I don't know that it's about repenting. I think it's about those of us who are still here, those of us who know the history. I think it's about us accepting that people perhaps didn't know differently, or their actions were based on fear, whatever it is. And I think that we who are still here should, if you're talking about being more spiritual or wanting to be more spiritual, I think we should simply accept the way that things were, to not look for people to say they're sorry or not sorry, but to look to see what it is that we can do with our actions, because our actions will spell out whether we've learned anything or whether we've not learned anything from past history. I mean, we can go into how many wars on this planet have there been, and how many tyrants have there been. So I think that we simply have to just look to see how we live, because our actions, our words and our actions will show whether we have learned anything from other people's mistakes. Chris?
Hearts Love Joe says, I wanted to ask if this guy I am interested in is going to contact me soon. I haven't talked to him in a while. I also wonder if he still likes me, and thank you.
Well, right now we're coming up to the hour, so thank you for asking me that question, but I'm not going to answer that question right now. And it seems such an odd question to ask. I know, Chris, you're not doing it necessarily in order, but it does seem that question is, I wouldn't say that it's inappropriate. I don't blame you, darling, for asking the question. But right now, when we're talking about sort of other much more spiritual things and more spiritual awareness for everybody, I think it's perhaps not the question to pose right now. Chris?
Carolyn says, Rosemary, I love the transcript idea for us that we attended. Was it exhausting for Gray Eagle, like it was for you? It can't be easy for him to come into our world, or is it?
I never thought twice about it. Of course I did. Or did I? It wasn't exhausting for either of us in the way that you might think that it's exhausting, because it's more sort of, your energy on the one hand is being depleted, so you certainly have a sense of that, but also even as you're doing this and you become more spiritual, your energy is then replete, and sort of just takes on a whole other level and a whole other dimension. So I think that the two of us sort of working together, I'm just checking with him that I'm saying the right thing for him as well as for me. It was powerful. And when something is powerful, then it's the energy raises you up, it lifts you up. And that's Gregor's answer right there. And it certainly lifted me up. So although we might be sort of, physically, wow, let me take a nap, which I actually didn't do, by the way. You might, it's emotionally, not necessarily physically, emotionally draining, but certainly not spiritually draining, and certainly not physically so much draining, but emotionally, there is a feeling of, okay, now let's breathe and take a break and take a rest.
P.S. O'Neill says, hello from Canada. I'm in Montreal. I'm Peggy. I am worried with what COVID has done to housing. Might I be able to find a home within a year or two?
I think, Peggy, yes. Don't give up. Don't give up. Please. And that's for all of you out there. Please don't give up. We are sort of slowly coming out of this. I actually said to somebody today, it's amazing actually how nobody dies of cancer anymore. Nobody dies of brain hemorrhages. Nobody dies of influenza we all die of COVID according to the numbers and according to the hospitals. And of course, the hospitals, do you know how many thousands of dollars each hospital gets for every COVID patient that they receive? And, so, rather than put down this lady's had cancer for 8 years and she finally passed, I've seen it. All of a sudden it's on the birth certificate, COVID. So please don't believe everything that is being said to you. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. Of course it exists, but please don't be so despondent. Don't let yourself get to the point where you're so exhausted. I promise it's going to work out, Peggy. I promise. Chris.
Gwenda says, it certainly looks that things have not been learned for my people, the First Nations people of Australia.
Well, I don't, do I agree? I don't quite agree. Unfortunately, not enough people have learned that we can rise up and say, that's enough now, we need to stop. So, and this is why we were talking earlier on today about Memorial Day. We were talking about the heroes, and perhaps there are not enough heroes. I think it's important that we should stand up, and if we see injustice or if we see meanness of any kind, I think it's important for us to stand up and say something. And so many people just don't want to. It's got nothing to do with me. I don't want to get involved. And look at every war there's ever been. If people had stood up and said no to the tyrants, if people had stood up in the beginning and said, hold on, this isn't right, this isn't, it's sort of having the courage for many people to stand up and say, no, this isn't right, this is not right. So I think, I do understand where you're coming from with that comment. I really, really do. And I wish there were more people who sort of stood up and were counted. We have to just encourage people to say, to say no when we see injustice. Chris.
Lori's asking, how do we balance staying in the spiritual awareness with the quote, standing up against the machine when we see corruption and evil?
Well, I think we can do it in a spiritual way. I told a story this morning. I'm not going to tell the story again, but I told a story this morning of how you can stand up and you can stand up against injustice, but in a gentle way, in a spiritual way. You can say, I'm sorry, but that's not right. And in my case, with the story I told this morning, she's only a little girl. When this little girl was being treated unjustly and meanly, she's only a little girl. Please remember, she's only a little girl and she needs gentleness. Our children need gentleness. Now, did I get punched in the face? No. You have go back to this morning's show to hear what actually happened. But we come back to Daniel in the lion's den, and I've always thought all of my life, even when I was a little girl, and used to hear the stories of the Bible stories and the story about Daniel, who and the other Christians who said, we are not going to denounce Christ. We are going to stand up against this evil. You're not going to dictate to us what it is we feel and what it is we believe. And they stood up and they were sent into the lion's den. A little bit drastic. I'm not suggesting that you all should put yourselves in that situation. But even as a child, I would think, if, I want to be Daniel. I want to be brave enough. And I've learned since then, but gentle enough to stand up and say, no, this is not right. Chris.
Barb's saying, I'm so thankful to you all for being in my life. Great Eagle, I look forward in the spiritual world to say thank you and meet you. You've been a blessing to all.
Well, thank you. You don't have to wait till you've gone to do that. I remember having a boyfriend once who said, I've decided that when I die, I'm going to help people. he actually said it to my face, and it's like, it took me a minute because I wasn't sure that I was hearing it right. And I said, why would you wait? Bob, this is not, I'm not saying that you did this, please. You know, I get where you're coming from. But I said to this guy, I'm confused. Did you just say, when I die, I'm going to help people? And he said, yes, I've decided that when I die, I'm going to help people. And I just looked at him and I said, why wait? You know, why wait? I was floored. Needless to say, he was out the door at some point after that. Chris.
I was going to say my first thought was, what's wrong with now?
I know. I think I was so stunned because he was so sincere. I have to be honest. He was so sincere in what he was saying, and he really thought that it was, you know, something good that he was saying and feeling. I was like, all right then. My feeling is, what are you waiting for? Why wait? So, Chris.
Well, Rosemary, you're coming right up on the hour. I do not have any more questions or comments.
Okay, well, we just thoroughly enjoyed our off the cuff. Is this it, Chris?
Oh
Could
my.
we come back in an hour and do another one?
Is this where we have to have our drum roll? Because, I mean, you still have 3 more hours left of May for your celebration. I mean, gosh, Rosemary, you know, not only did you write the book with Gray Eagle and obviously all the people who shared their lives with you, but, you know, from my heart to yours, you've made a tremendous difference in all of our lives, and you've provided us with hope and encouragement and examples. You know, one little person can change the world, and you have absolutely done that with that book. So thank you.
Wow. Well, Chris, thank you so much for that. You know, you're helping, so accolades to you too. Okay, so I'm going to tell you why I do it. I'm going to try to give you a reason why we do this and why we've been doing this for all of these years, way beyond the 25 years. If you've read my book, The Eagle and the Rose, you'll know this story, but I'm going to tell it to you anyway. Do we have time, Chris, for this? We do. Yes, I've decided that we do. So anyone who now wants to go to bed, off you go. I'm going to tell this story. This is the final story that I will be telling for this month, right? For our celebration, 25 years of the first publication of The Eagle and the Rose. So here's a story from The Eagle and the Rose which truly happened. So I was dragged by a good friend to a meeting. It was a guy talking about tarot cards and how to use them and what he did, and he apparently was an expert on tarot cards and tarot reading. I did not want to go, and I went kicking and screaming just a little bit. I was ungracious, but at the same time, I really needed to go because I couldn't stand to be in the house by myself any longer. By this time, I'd become a recluse. I was terrified of my seeing things and hearing people in the spirit world and wondering whether I was going crazy or not, as my mother had predicted for all of the years of my childhood. So there was a part of me which did not want to go. Another part of me really just wanted to just not be by myself. We end up at a cottage, a small cottage out in the wilds of Yorkshire somewhere. And when we got there, the cars, lots of cars in the driveway, and we walked into this small living room, which was jam-packed with people, all interested in listening to this speaker. So my friend grabbed a chair. We were perhaps running a little bit late. My friend grabbed a chair. There was only one chair left in the room. I had no choice. There was one chair left, and that chair was the chair that the speaker had been using while he was being introduced. So the chair was right next to the speaker. So I was facing the whole room. The whole room was looking at the speaker, and I was next to the speaker, right? So you've got that. He did his thing, and all the time he's doing his thing, I'm thinking to myself, oh gosh, what he's saying is, sounds like me. It sounds like it applies to me. But I'm critical because I'm thinking, well, it probably applies to most of the people in this room, but it did apply to me. And at some point he looked at me and he said, Rosemary, this is for you. Now, I never met him. He didn't know me. I didn't know anybody else in the room. One of the reasons I'd become a recluse was because I was having these, let's say, episodes, shall we? Sort of going off, my way, talking to the spirit world. I'd be reading a book on the sofa and I'd look up and there would be somebody sitting on the opposite sofa, and I'd say hello. And I know that's not right. Don't you know that's not right, don't you? When you start to talking to people who are only you can see, maybe you are crazy. So the reason I became a recluse was because I never wanted anybody to see just how crazy I was, because at this point my daughter was 10, 11 years old, and there was no way that I was going to, I was afraid that people would think I was crazy, but I was more afraid that they would see that I was crazy and take my daughter away from me. So tough, really tough time of my life. So here I am in this room with this bunch of strangers, and this guy turns to me and says, oh, everything I've just said was for you. And I'm thinking, okay, he's also crazy. I didn't say anything at all. And he handed something to me, and I think it was a cross on a chain, and he said, here, hold this and tell me what you think. And you hold your hand out before you even know what you're doing. I'd never done anything like this before, and he sort of put this thing into my hand, and I took it, and then I handed it straight back to him. And the next thing I'm aware of, I'm looking out at a large ocean, very grey, very choppy, waves, not stormy, but a grey sea. I'm sort of just sitting, and there it is. 1 minute I'm in this room with all these people, and the next minute I'm looking out at this enormous grey ocean. And as I'm looking out at this ocean, from the corner of my eye, I see a huge ship, again grey, and it's coming very, very slowly, sort of coming to my peripheral vision, and I'm sort of watching it as it's coming closer and closer, and slowly it sort of starts to come in front of me a little bit. And as it comes in front of me a little bit, I notice that there is a lady standing on the deck of this ship, and comes over here, and I can see her now more clearly, and the ship is still moving, but I can see her, and to my shock, this lady who is wearing a long dress, a bonnet, very much like the Salvation Army used to wear years ago. She's wearing a dress with a sort of a badge. I couldn't see what the badge said, but this big bonnet on her head. And as I'm looking at her, to my absolute shock, where her features were, her face was blank, just white, blank white, no features, nothing. But I could hear her, and she was calling out to me, and her hands left the rail, and she's reaching out to me, and she's begging, literally crying and begging to me, help us. And she's looking at me, directing this to me. What could I do? Help us, she called out. Help us, please. Please help us. And as I watched, the ship goes by, the front of the ship tips up, and the ship sinks into the ocean. And even as she's drowning, even as I see the ship disappearing into the ocean, even as I'm seeing that, I can still hear her voice, help us, please, please help us. And it stopped. And then it's almost like on a reel. I see it again. And the ship comes slowly and slowly, and I can see it in my peripheral vision. And again, I'm shocked. Even though this is the second time I'm now seeing it, I'm shocked because she has no face. No, it's just white where her features are. And again, she's reaching out her arms and begging me. And again, the ship sinks. And as the ship goes and gets lost in the ocean, again, a third time. And a third time, my shock is not perhaps quite as it was, but still shocking. I can hear her calling out to me. I can't see her mouth moving. She doesn't have a mouth. All I can see is this face, this faceless woman wearing this long dress, long grey dress, and a bonnet on her head, a badge on the corner of her dress there. And I can hear her reaching out to me, and I can feel every single emotion so deep, such yearning in her voice as she's calling out to me, begging me, please, please help us. When I came to back into the room with all of these people, unbeknownst to me, I had gone into a trance state. Unbeknownst to me, I had been recounting everything that I'd seen 3 times over. And unbeknownst to me, I was so moved, so deeply moved by this. I had been crying as I was recounting. The tears were just flowing. I was wearing a silk blouse that night. The blouse was soaked. My face was soaked. And when I came to and opened my eyes and saw these people staring at me, I knew instantly that I'd been caught. I knew that I should never have gone there. I knew that now everyone would know that I was crazy. What would happen? Would they come and take my daughter from me? What would happen? My friend, who had dragged me there kicking and screaming, was terrified. Everyone in the room, there was silence. Eventually someone came and brought me a cup of tea, and 1 or 2 people started fussing around me saying, "Are you okay?" And all I could think was, I have got to get out of here. I've just got to get out. So when my friend, now standing, said to me, "Shall we go?" Boy, oh boy, was I ever out of that place. I could not wait to get out of there. And we got out into the driveway. And as we got out into the driveway, the man who owned the house stopped me, and he took hold of my hands, and all I wanted to do was leave. And he took hold of my hands and he said, "Rosemary, I know you think you're crazy, and you probably think I'm crazy too." And I'm thinking, "Yeah, I do. You're right, I do." He said, "But one day very soon you will know that you're one of the sanest people on this earth." I really thought he was crazy. My friend drove me home. It took us about 15-20 minutes to get home. She did not say one single word on the way back, nor did I. We got to my house. She didn't pull into the driveway. She pulled up by the side of the house. I opened the door. I've never seen anyone speed off up the road so fast. She just left me standing at the top of the driveway, and I was on my own. I walked into the house. My daughter had been on a sleepover, so I walked into the house. It was dark. I was by myself. I remember sort of getting ready for bed, doing things automatically, but all the time in my head thinking, now they know. Now everybody will know that I'm crazy. And my fear, my great fear was they would come and take my daughter away. Somebody would say that I was insane. My mother had been predicting it almost every day throughout my childhood. I knew that they would think that I was crazy. The next morning, the couple whose house it was called me and said, will you come and talk to us? We might be able to help you. There's no way I'm going to see these people. They're as crazy as I am. They brought this tarot card reader into the house. What am I getting into? No, 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 no. But a part of me, so desperate to somehow stop what was going on, certainly not to develop it, certainly not to continue with it, but to stop what was going on in my mind, because I knew myself absolutely that I was crazy. The draw of just having somebody to listen or to help, or who said they could help. And that was the beginning. And much, much later came the Eagle and the Rose. That was the beginning of my sitting here in front of you all of these years later. The man who owned the house, Paul Denham, was absolutely right when he said to me one day, soon you'll know that you're one of the sanest people on this earth. And it took me a little while, but yes, I think I am one of the sanest people on this earth. I think I am smart enough to know that there are so many more things in heaven and earth than we can possibly see, and that there are people like myself who can perhaps see a little bit beyond what the normal vision can see. So that is the story of my beginnings. Have I stunned you all, Chris? Have I stunned everybody into silence by telling that story?
Well, that's a true account. It is a story in the sense you told it, but it's a true account of what has happened to you in your life. And Judith says, I remember when you told this before. It's so emotional and so moving. I'm sure anyone who was there that night has never forgotten what happened.
No, but remember, they all thought that I was crazy. Anyway, I just thought I would leave you with that story to mull over. If you want to know the rest of the story, and if you want to know more, please read The Eagle and the Rose. Why don't you? If you want to know where you can get it at lulu.com, lulu.com, where you can find all of my other books. And if you have a struggle with that, just email Chris, Kris, at rosemaryaltea.com, or go to my website where you can click and order one right there. So I didn't tell that story to sell the books, but if you do want to know the rest of the story, and more importantly, other people's stories told from my point of view, my perspective, the other people's stories with me and connecting with the spirit world, then, then I suggest it's one of the best books I've ever read. Oh yes, I wrote it, but it's still one of the best books I ever read still. So I highly recommend it. And remember our webinar where we're going to be talking to the dead. The woman on the ship, what was that about, do you think? The woman with no face, the grey ocean, my watching as the ship sank into the ocean. The woman with no face represents all of those in the spirit world who we don't see. Faceless people to so many of us, faceless, not there. They are as if in a cold grey ocean. We see people die all the time, and they may as well be in this dark ocean because we don't see them. We don't see where they are. We don't know where they are. Help us. Simple enough, right? They're asking, please help us. Help us have a voice. Help us have a face. Help to give us a face. I am, after all, the voice of the spirit world. So I do try to put faces to all of those supposedly faceless people who aren't faceless at all. They are our loved ones who guide us, who protect us, and who keep us safe. All right, so that's it for our off-the-cuff stuff. If you want more of us, let me see, we'll be doing more off-the-cuff. We'll be doing on Thursday, we'll be doing our usual Thursday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we will be talking about The Spirit World Sees All. We will be doing our story time on Saturday, and we will be intermittently doing other things this week. We've gotten so used to doing something every day that it's going to be hard for us. It's sort of, we're going to have withdrawal, so we'll have to do some stuff and watch for the off-the-cuff stuff, because we're continuing to do that also. So email Chris, Kris, at rosemaryaltea.com, or go to our website or our Facebook page. I was going to say, go to our website, rosemaryaltea.com, and you'll see there all kinds of stuff going on. And in the meantime, thank you, all of you. You've been such blessed friends to us. You've really blessed us with your lovely comments, with your questions, with your words. So, you know, I know that Chris feels the same way. We feel so blessed to have you in our lives. So thank you all. I'd like to say thank you to Chris for doing the off-the-cuff stuff, because it's late at night for us. And I'd like to say thank you to Gregor, of course, as always, for being the hand on my shoulder, the support to my back, to have been the one who drives this whole thing. He's saying, as a team, we drive it together, which we do. So please, until I see you all again, have a very, very blessed rest of the evening, everybody. And I'll see you when I see you. Bye-bye.